Yo, let's go, PVS. You fucking
Yeah,
fucking
hey,
yeah. Let's go, PVS. You spoiled and wrecked
You ruined the Piltover
You ruined a
standings,
group that we thought was the most locked up. You ruined the group that we thought was like totally done and dusted.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Salt Mine. This is Season 4, Episode 15, and we've made it. We're into the ACL playoffs. Been a long, hard battle for 32 teams, which you have now narrowed down to 16, and going to have 2 matches of playoffs a week going forward. So this is going to be the best part of the ACL season. Going to be trying to tweet a lot, going to be trying to, whatever you call blue skying, a lot about these matches, and yeah, it's going to be a great showcase of some of the best talent we've got here. I'm Gordo. I'm joined by TDS Slayer and Quax. Deep into the off season, this is the best opportunity these players are going to have to show off for NACL rosters and NACLQ rosters, and yeah, definitely going to be a great preview for what should be a good 2025, assuming that Riot doesn't get too much more involved and change too many more things.
Or kills tier 2.
Or kills tier 2. That would
Always an option.
Always an option. But we're not going to talk about that right here, right now. That'll be a conversation for when it happens, probably. Grapes and Hawks just did a Salty Runback episode talking about it.
I listened to that entire segment, and
recommend going to listening to their thoughts. I think they've got the right read on the situation. So we're going to keep things mainly ACL focused here. We're going to pay our respects to the logo up in the top corner. Talk about some of our favorite teams that are going to be leaving us. And then we're going to talk about the playoff matchups. And get excited for what's going to be another great season of ACL playoffs. First things first, let's highlight those who have lost, those who we've lost along the way.
Tribute to the fallen.
Tribute to the fallen. We can just go group by group here and just talk about contenders that we mentioned last week, who made it, who didn't, and maybe pay some respects to those who didn't. Starting in Demacia, Illinois State University taking first, CCG Glorb taking second, Pulse taking third, Peak Performers taking fourth. Slayer and I win out on our wager. Next Level Esports and Converse both dropping out. Next Level Esports at 4-4, just barely missing by one game.
Oh my god!
And Converse going 3-5 and ending 7th. So, any thoughts other than that Slayer and I were right? I mean, we get to take a victory lap here.
Play-by-plays don't know anything. We don't do analysis. Told you.
Yeah. Well, so I will say, I really did. I personally think, and I think that this can be kind of a debate point. I think Demacia overall, like if we're taking in the entire group, was the most competitive of the 4. Like I think from like top to bottom, this was the most competitive. And so I would say honestly, like NLE and Converse in particular, like these are 2 teams that I could totally see making playoffs in like a less competitive season of ACL, something like the spring. But like when we've got the fall and you've got ISU, you've got CCG Glorp, who is basically an NACL team with extra chromosomes and one loss that wasn't even really their fault because they had a completely different team. Then I really do not look at NLE through Converse and say to myself, damn, this team fucking sucked and they should not have made it, because I think in a different universe, these are definitely teams that could have made top 4 in their group.
Yeah, I can get behind that. we were talking about this last week where I wanted to see how like each group stacked up with each other, right? Like comparatively for standings, what would they do if they were in other groups? And I think Demacia would have been one of the teams that if they were in another group, or Demacia was one of the groups where if you were in another group, you probably are closer to qualify for your next level than in Demacia, sadly. And obviously, Big Performers technically overperformed to a certain degree at in the last few matches. I won't say in general, I would say in the last matches, because they were clearly trying to recover from the ruffle start. But in a normal situation, that probably is an NLE spot. I think they are biting themselves by not 2-0ing Converse because that is really one of the main difference makers at the end there. And then looking at Converse, we were wrong in that. I will say Converse, a lot of their failures come from themselves. I will put it like that. Not necessarily failures, but we watched some of their games. If I'm not wrong, we were the ones that watched the game against Italy. If I'm not misremembering.
No, you're right.
And that game could have gone either way, but I feel like a lot of that comes from Converse being not a fully fleshed out team. I can see them being much better when it comes time for Silo, so I'm excited to see them going up. But certainly it was a much better or much more fleshed out performance by Next Level Esports, and I think that's the difference maker. And I also think that's what ends up affecting the matchup in Tuesday against Peak Performers. Not saying that they just gave up and didn't play, but I do think that the mentality coming from Converse after losing to NLE 2-1 probably wasn't the best because they were already kind of considered the underdogs, and then they end up losing really bad against Peak Performers. All in all, I don't think they are undeserved of the playoff spot. I do think that this could have been the spot for anyone, depending on the last week's results. It's just unlucky for Converse and more so for NLE. It's unlucky that they couldn't get one more win or one less loss.
I think this group in general is just unlucky because of the CCG
Yeah.
Dragonsteel curveball.
You literally have like three.
That
Yeah,
changed
you have-
everything really.
Yeah, I mean, you have a collegiate team, composed of, some great.
Music,
It's like NACL
ACL.
talent, imports from European high level play, and then you've got two NACL teams at this point, and one of them being a very critical one. So it's Demacia was unfortunate for all the teams we're talking about now.
Yeah.
But it honestly could have been similar, actually, the more I think about it, if Peak Performers didn't get off to such a rough start. This did always feel like a 3-horse division to me. It just didn't play out the way I thought the 3-horse race would play. I thought it was going to be Peak Performers playing the role of like CCG Glor CCG Glor played now.
Yeah.
So my main question mark here is because I don't remember them realistically. I don't remember them very well because we only have them 1 week. But like when looking, obviously putting side by side the roster from CCG Glorp to CCG Glorp now, before and now, the difference is night and day. Like it's like you mentioned here, it's an NACL team to what is it called? A developing thing. Like it was legitimately a developing team against an NACL team in comparison. And I'm kind of curious if, like, looking back at it now, I don't think CCG Glorp make it out. So I do think that there would have been a one spot that would have been for one of these two teams, be it NLE, be it even Chaotic Solar. They ended up 3-5, if I'm not wrong, with a much better match score than Converse. So that could have been their spot as well, technically, if it was CCG Glorp, or the original CCG Glorp. So I think this group certainly was affected by that change in the roster. I don't fault anyone because at the end of the day, this does happen quite a bit in the ACL, but it's unlucky for the teams involved. It's all I will say.
I will also say, to your point about Converse, TDS, I do think that come Seawolf, this is going to be a team that will significantly level up. Like, I think we saw a lot of strengths from Converse in particular. I do think the only change we might see from now until whenever Seawolf starts is in the jungle. Zav, I believe, is a coach for FearX Starforge, so maybe obligations call him there, and he might not be able to fulfill his duties on Converse. So they might get like a new jungler. That might be the only thing that we see different from now until then. But I honestly don't think like like even if Zav stays, then I think this team still looks really solid in Seawolf. Like I was really impressed with their top mid. That was the biggest question mark that we had going forward. Were they able to really punch in a weight class that was very heavy in the Demacia division? They certainly were, and then I had no question on Devin and Phantom Star's comparability toward each other.
So actually, I will quickly jump on your point. I feel like from the few games that we were able to watch from Converse, I felt more comfort watching their top mid than their bot lane. I feel like the ones that disappointed, quote unquote disappointed, I won't say like they were massively down, but like the ones that actually surprised me with the level were Devin and Phantom Star. Like those were the two players I was expecting. No, like I will say it's there here. They, to me, to a certain degree, costed that series against
The
NLE.
game 3
They
was really
were
bad.
they were
Yeah,
really
yeah.
far behind multiple times. Like
I,
I think
I, I
if
can't
it's the
cap.
normal, Devin and Phantom Star that we all know, I think that series looks slightly different because the bot lane was always a problem for them in that series, which was surprising. I still have hope, extreme hope, funny enough, that they will come back for Silo. But like it's
Yeah.
weird to see that uncharacteristic series from them.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to watch the whole game 3. I think I had something to get to, but I watched the early game, and we're just feeding it Jinx kills. I mean, I don't really
Yeah.
know how you expect to win when the win con is the opposite of that. So,
Yeah.
it was rough. That series alone was rough for Devin and Phantom Star. Very
Yeah.
uncharacteristic, which was unfortunate.
And then I think the more unfortunate part was after that series, they subbed out Phantom Star in favor of Dinosaur Chainsaw. And this is something that really, this is something we'll get to when we go further into paying tribute to the Fallen as we go on in the ACL. But what really grinds my gears, gentlemen, is when teams change out their roster in the last week, especially when your ass is on the line. It really rubs me the wrong way. Like I do not like it when teams do that. So we'll get to that later, and I'll have a lot more to say about that, particularly in Piltover. But that I wasn't a huge fan of. Like I actually think that if they had their full 5, then we could have seen them put up more of a fight. Maybe they don't outright beat peak performers. They probably don't. But like
But at least fighted.
a last hurrah needs to be had.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit of a, like, it rubbed me the wrong way. Wouldn't have changed anything, but I think like from a fan standpoint, because I really like Converse. I like the roster that they've assembled. I like Devin and Phantom Star. Like this just kind of rubs me the wrong way. So that's all I kind of have to say about that. I would say, taking a break from Converse for a bit, like Chaotic Solar, I think this is a team that should 100% keep going with their main core. Like, I think Chaotic had, like, in particular, these guys managed to upset peak performers. Albeit it was week 1, but like that says something in my opinion. So I hope they continue with like a core that they assembled this split. And then NLE, obviously, we've talked about them a fair bit. I like this core a lot, and I hope they actually continue with this main 5. Maybe they make like a swap here and there. I'm not a GM, so I can't say who they should replace. I probably wouldn't even say who they should replace if I knew. But like, I like these 3 teams as they were, and I hope they continue, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I think Idol and Yoru were big standouts on next level esports.
Yes, Yoru in particular, that man's Thresh is so fucking good. It's actually kind of
defined a game by himself. It defined a game by himself 100%. So
yes.
I agree.
I'm excited for them in the next round of OQs, so I'm gonna have my eyes on those guys.
Also,
in particular.
Also, it's important. Like, you guys, I feel like this is gonna come off as like somewhat disrespectful, but
Go
it
ahead.
shouldn't. Next level esports, like teams like Next Level Esports, Chaotic Solar, especially not Collegiate Converse. You should be an ACL winner. Like, you need to play ACL winter to continue playing. I know the level gets a lot slow. Like, it's not like you're not going to be playing ACL teams. You're at the best probably going to be playing like OQ hopefuls, not even like the top OQ teams, whatever the qualifiers look like. But ACL is still the best spot for teams like this to play, so they can still get reps while they're playing in those qualifiers, in my mind. So I hope to see guys like Gordo, guys like Idol, guys on this Chaotic Solar roster on top of that. We talk about J-Bear for me, like maybe not
J-Bear.
J-Bear, like Rapid. Even Devonair and Zev, I would say, because I should still be playing ACL Winter because those are the most valuable Tier 3 reps outside of the qualifiers, regardless if there's a step back from the fall level.
Yeah. I think ACL Winter is going to be better this year than traditionally because I don't think there's going to be OQs going on for a while. Yeah,
since we don't know anything yet.
We don't really know anything, but I don't think because
I agree.
OQs and NACL and stuff are still on a 2-split format, so they're going to.
Yeah, we're gonna wait until spring essentially.
Yeah,
right?
they're not going to start
until
winter or until like March.
Probably like February, March. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll have some time.
Yeah, so we'll have time. I do agree with you though. I think that like this should be this, and then I also I don't know if it's been announced yet, but there will be another big tier 3 sort of ACL-esque tournament by another famous organization. I don't want to spoil anything in case it hasn't been announced, but there will be more opportunities than just the ACL to try your luck. So you should take every opportunity you can get, essentially, if you're these 3 teams. Because
we're not gonna say the name until they sponsor us. So I
You're
actually know
right.
what I know what org he's talking about.
I will apply as a caster
There's
if when they come out though.
There's another. Yeah, I mean that's a different story. TDS, but there's another corner over there. I'm just saying, you know.
Yes, there
There's
is.
another corner.
Look,
that
if they
corner.
have merch as well, they can
Some might
send
even
it
say
to
there's
me and I'll
4.
wear it. I'll even put it in the back there. Like I have a blank space. There.
I do need some more like esports merch. Like on God, I have like a FlyQuest jersey and I have a World's Golden Guardian jersey that they wore once before they got 3-0'd by BDS. That thing is a relic. I got commented on that several times when I went to summer finals. But I need more. I need more apparel.
I did in fact recognize Quax.
You only have one?
I have one thing. It's a G2 2016 jersey when they were champions for the first time. Or jersey, no, a jacket for the first time when they were champions of EULCS, when it was EULCS. The golden one. I still have that one. That is a
I think I know which one you're talking about. I'm jealous of Slayer because he has the Fear one. The Fear jersey.
Oh, yeah, he actually has a Fear
I
one.
want that shit. I want some Fear apparel.
Yeah,
I'm jealous of that.
It's also Fear apparel that is not their current jersey anymore. So I guess it's technically
they already changed it.
It's a relic.
Shout out my boy Jordan.
Starforge, yeah.
My boy Jordan.
So what we want to get here is that send us merch. We'll more than likely use it. So just
I will wear it on the show every time.
If
you send me a jersey, I will wear it every episode. I will do it.
It's a fair deal.
Exactly.
It's a fair deal. All right.
We should pay tribute to the fallen people in Noxus now because there are quite a lot of fallen tributes.
Yep, this is the other big one. So CCG take first, Mirage take second, Straw Hat Crew take third, Weber State take fourth against all odds, and Nano's Noobs fall short by 1 game. They will not make it. They're, I think, the biggest loss. I think Nano's Noobs, the only 5-3 team to not make it in the whole league.
Yep.
And
exactly.
yeah, that's a big loss. I think they performed very, very well. They beat Weber State just on Friday, but we're not able to make it. And then Supernova Dark Matter misses at 4-4 after Darius Jungle is not enough to win it for them up against Weber.
I saw that and I was like, oh boy, all right, here we go. This is a shimmer pick if ever I've seen one. But yeah, I mean, like more in particular, like I think Nanos would have been a really fun curveball going into like playoffs. Like we'll get to this when we get to talking about playoffs itself, but like I don't think it's a super big hot take to say that most 4th seeds are screwed. Like I think there is a huge gap between the top 3 of every division and then the number 4th seed. And I think Nanos probably are just as screwed as Weber or Supernova or whoever takes that 4th seed. But they're an interesting enough team to the point where I think watching the series would have been a lot more engaging. And that's not to call other teams boring. I just think Nano's Noobs themselves are a very different team. And if they're going to go out, I would like to see them go out with style, right? And it's sad that we don't get that.
Yeah, realistically, like casting the series from Nano's Noobs Weaver and knowing just seconds after they won the series that they are pretty much eliminated was 100% a heartbreak for everyone involved.
I realized about halfway through game number 3, I was like, oh, the fact that this went to game number 3 means Nano's Noobs is screwed. As I saw the other results coming in, and I'm like, I'm just gonna hope Weber wins and not mention it. And then Nano's Noobs won, and I just kind of had to say it. I couldn't keep lying to the people.
At least if I'm not wrong, because Weber wins, they technically do still have a better game record than Nano. So they because they did win against Supernova, they were going to qualify with a much better record. But
I mean, like, if Nanos had 1-3, or if Nanos had 1-2, they would have the playoff spot instead of
the
Weber.
Playoff spot because of the
fact that it went to 3 games means that Nanos Noobs did not make it.
It's extremely unlucky for them. I will say, and nothing against Nano Snoops. I have a bit of a biased opinion here because I was the only one that did predict Weaver to make it out of this group.
You were.
So I will take I'm mad about the Cumbers one, but I take this as a much better prediction because it was one against nobody, and I still won, so I take that 100%. And I feel like Weaver certainly has it in them to maybe be a kind of an underdog team because even in the games that they lost against Nanos, they performed quite well. Like I don't think it was a shutout against Nanos in any way. They had multiple occasions where they could have won the series, as well as obviously throw it away in multiple occasions like it happened against Nanos. But I feel like they are a team that has an interesting idea of how they want to try and play the game. They are not scared of trying to go for plays when it needs to happen.
Mhm.
And they have players that are really interesting to watch. I think
Yeah.
one of the main things that I'm sad about losing from Nanos though is particularly the way that they played with their mid laner with blanking on his name now, but Lycamos. Because Lycamos was such an enjoyable player to watch. Not only because he played really well, like I think he was a cornerstone in how Nanos won a lot of their games, but also because he affected so much of the pick and ban phase of Nano Snoops in such an interesting way that it was enjoyable. One of the few players, or the only player that played ACL, brings out the Talia, brings out the Lissandra in situations that people are not trying to bring it out that much. So I think that losing Nano's news, particularly for Lycamos, is really unlucky, and then the other players as well. But I'm glad that Weaver is in, and I think Weaver and Peak Performers are going to be really threatening as fourth seeds, because they are peak performers, obviously, by virtue of being peak performers. Like their players are a team that you never want to face just because of who they are. And then I think Weaver can surprise as well if you give them the chance.
Yeah, I just want to reserve the fourth seed talk for the actual playoff matchups because I think we're gonna get there down the line. I do like the emergence of Lycamos. People forget, talk about a guy who on the Reilluminate, that Reilluminate team was the one that made top 8, right? And Lycamos was a big player there. So Lycamos, another player I think. My friend, capitalize on ACL Winter. I think you've done enough as well. If you want to try and shoot for this is gonna sound disrespectful again. I don't mean to. If I feel like you might get offers to play around some players a little bit higher caliber in the ACL Winter, unless or if these are the buddies you want to win with the buddies. To process many mid laners that we love in tier 2 right now have subscribed to, Samikin being the marketed one before he was a tier 2 guy. So I just want to keep shouting that out for all these teams that barely missed it, because barely missing ACL fall playoffs, even
that's
if we
kind
think
of an achievement.
I mean, even if we think winter is gonna be a little bit better than it was last split, missing ACL fall playoffs for me automatically earns, in my head at least, you are going to make playoffs for winter.
It
can
Well, and it could just say Zamudo missed ACL fall playoffs a year ago. It's
we can see that that's what nurtured him into trying to be a better player.
I like how we mention that basically every episode, because it is such a universal way of saying that the caliber of the fall has been so high that even the best players are sometimes not able to make it in.
Yeah, and it's we're having a big. This is how you know that the ACL is really popping off, is because now we're having big discussions about how the format sucks. When everybody's getting involved to complain about how the format sucks, that's when you know you've really made it. Nobody used to complain about the formats in the earlier seasons.
Everyone loved it.
I think the complaints are valid, jokes aside, that things can break not your way in fall ACL, and your group draw may not, your teams may substantially change to no longer reflect the original group draw. That's the nature of the fact that nobody's getting paid on any of these teams. So teams that are bottom tier will become top tier. Teams that are top tier will become bottom tier. Teams that make playoffs will drop their entire roster a week before the playoffs start. These things happen, and it means that there's some variance to be had. Unless you're the very, very best in your group. So I think you shouldn't beat yourself up too much. It definitely should be coming back in winter. See what winter has in store for you.
Yeah. And I guess kind of shifting from Nano's noobs because we've talked about them. I really, really, really like the Supernova Dark Matter squad. Like this to me was the quintessential development team. And like although yes, they didn't make playoffs, like this to me was a super good initiative by Supernova. And I hope to see, if not the team itself, reunite in something related to winter, whether it be ACL, whether it be the other tournament we talked about, Demacia, that we can't say yet, or hell, maybe Supernova Dark Matter play in their combine, because I know Supernova always usually hosts like a winter combine. Like these are 5 players that, in my opinion, should 100% keep going, because I think every single one of them is super fucking talented. And I think that it just kind of came down to like an experience thing. Like you have to keep in mind, like Shimmer, Popcorn, Thomas, and Quokka. Like Shimmer is considered old for like the standards of the and Shimmer really got his start up early this year. So when Shimmer is the guy that you're looking at to be like a backbone of the team, kind of with some veterancy, I think you have to understand, and I think you understand rather, how new this team actually is just in general. Like Prank is really the only, I would say, veteran on the team. So I would say with like more reps, more experience, more time to mesh and grow, like all of these players should have like a very bright future. Like I think Popcorn and Thomas in particular, they lived up to the hype, in my opinion. Like we talked about it in the pre-show. These guys are the big thing, and I didn't watch them before. I didn't understand. Now I understand. I hope they keep going, and I'm really excited to see them. So again, we're talking about teams that need to keep sticking with it. This is the team for me that needs to keep sticking with it, because I actually hard believe in this team.
I think Supernova Dark Matter, unfortunately, I would say they fell into the youth trap of hot start against opponents that are, you know, at their level, maybe a bit below, and then you run into They ran into Straw Hat Crew, and they played Mirage and Straw Hat Crew in back-to-back weeks. I'll put in quotation marks because their schedule was just whack with a capital W. But and they got 0-2 in both those. So you know, I'm sure a little tilt came across. Happens with those young teams. It doesn't even need to stay under Supernova. To be honest, Shimmer, Popcorn, and Thomas should continue looking for looks. And I would be disappointed if all 3 of those players aren't in some capacity playing for OQs, because, like we keep saying, we don't know what qualifiers look like. I'm going to go off the assumption they're going to let 32 teams in again. I would be shocked if they shorten it. Definitely players that should be on some rosters out of that 32.
Yeah, ideally. And then I guess the last team from Noxus that we can pay tribute to is this will be short, but Pick Me Galio.
I mean,
you know, I fuck all of you. I love Pick Me Galio.
They're great. They're great.
Like, if this was like a social, like their socials are so funny. They're like subtweeting on Hamza, and they're like making fun of Nikic, and just every single tweet is an absolute banger. And these are like, I don't know, they're a fun little. I think they're a fun little segue from ACL to like the streamers that kind of just are the the funny streamers of League, rather. I'll put it that way. So I don't know. I like them. So I'm gonna say, you know, tribute to Pick Me Galio. They won the first 2 weeks and then never again. But I will be a Pick Me Galio stan until I die.
Fair.
Free my boy YB Silver.
Free the boy. All right, let's get over to Piltover. Piltover.
By the way, perfect segue. I told you guys. I told you guys.
You did. Kind of.
I mean...
But it's fair. All right. AoE Sports number 1.
Damn.
Gentle Hearts Gaming number 2. Guangdong Flying Tigers number 3. And Black Rock Esports number 4.
This fucking group, man. I don't even want to
Contingent Esports with a historic choke against K9.
They lost against the team that had lost against everyone.
Yo, let's go PVS. You fucking
Yeah,
fucking
hey,
smashed the
let's
playoffs.
go.
You did it, man.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's go, PVS. You spoiled and wrecked
You ruined the Piltover
You ruined a group that we
standings,
thought
man.
was the most locked up. You ruined the group that we thought was like totally done and dusted. There was like little chaos that would be involved. Like we're maybe playing for a 4th seed, and I've got Gentle Hearts Gaming as my 2nd seed and Black Rocks int roster sitting in a playoff.
Do you remember which one did we say who was out? It was BlackRock, right?
Yeah.
We
Well,
said
so
BlackRock was doomed.
my favorite fucking part of all of this is if you I can't even. If you go to BlackRock's, my head hurts. If you go to BlackRock's roster on the sheet, they don't have a fucking jungler, and their 80 carry is 7,000 tiger dicks. #quit.
Okay.
7,000
I mean, they
Tiger
just
Dicks.
didn't think
Hey,
this
it
was
is
gonna
great,
happen.
yeah.
They just did not think that they were gonna make playoffs. Like that's just exactly what happened. And they let. I mean, I guess we haven't talked about it here. You could tell that partly because of the people they have replaced, but the people they were replacing are now on the 6-2 Gentle Hearts roster, which is a Nori B, who's now a Gentle Hearts player.
Yeah.
In the
For what it is worth, 7,000 Tiger Dicks, I think, is Genesis. I think it's pure Genesis. Mid laner.
Genesis, yeah, I think.
yeah,
Classic, like, Masters GM League competitor. I think he's won some Risen Divine Leagues, some Risen Mythical Leagues. Am I wrong there, Slayer? I feel like we've seen pure Genesis in these leagues a million times.
I don't know if he's won, but you definitely remember.
He's always
the
like
name.
competing. I believe that is who 7,000 Tiger Dicks #quit is. I have reason to believe that 7,000 Tiger Dicks #quit is pure
You
Genesis.
keep saying it, which makes it the best, but you're not calling him Genesis. You're
No.
calling.
No, he's stuck like this. Like,
Yeah.
Dude,
No.
this is
if he plays, he's stuck like this in ACL.
okay. So,
So let's make sure to pay. Let's use this section to pay tribute to the teams that didn't make it, because I'm sure we're gonna boat race this conversation when we have to get to the playoff
pure
matchup.
Genesis substitute bot lane with no jungler 4v5.
We'll get to all that later.
In a bit.
Let's not chaos. So I mean, yeah, contingent. Easiest
They had
run,
it.
like we hyped
You
up. Oh,
can't-
Converse could go on this run, man. Like Converse could be fun, but like we just stopped.
Like-
and like, oh, contingent, just beat K9. Like
They needed to be the teams that were below them, not even teams ahead of them, like below them in the standings. And they, by the way, they will still be below them in the standings even with that win. So like, that's kind of the worst part. Like, no matter if they won that game, credit to K9, but they were still going to end more than likely last, if not before last, or one position up. Like, everything was there for them to do it, and that's precisely why I thought they were going to screw it up. Nothing against their players. I really thought they are underappreciated most of the times, but like, when it's the easiest, it's when you have to doubt the most.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I mean,
I also kind of I think it was just a choke from them on their part.
It is.
But like, to be honest with you, this is a roster and these are players that I think actually I really like this roster. Like, I personally, like, I actually like a Frozen Titan and War Cyclone, like highlighting
they're good
in particular. They're really good. So again, sound like a broken record, get your ass in winter or something like that, because I think this team, you know, assuming they don't choke again, which I hope they don't.
Assuming.
They are going to be able to make it further. But you know what's kind of interesting is other than that, I feel like and this is something that I brought up, I think a couple episodes ago. Piltover contingent really was kind of the bridge for the top and the bottom. The bottom, though, I felt like Dorado Gaming White, Grandview, K9, Kosa. I don't even like Dorado White in particular. It kind of feels like they had a BlackRock esports sort of implode on their own, but like earlier when they were potentially in it. So like the last few weeks, we've kind of been saying they're basically screwed. So I honestly think, other than contingent, None of the other ones really gave me like tribute vibes. So I feel like Contingent is the one we've really got to pay salute to. Really the only one we got to pay salute to in Piltover.
Yeah, Dorado deserves everything. Like deserves that they are not in. They did so many things wrong, and
Damn.
I do not. Yeah, like nothing against their players, but let's be real. Like they had, to me, they were one of the better setup teams when looking at the roster. This result is one of the biggest disappointments.
Well, and they told us week 1 they like weren't practicing and stuff, so it's like, you know.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm not feeling bad about their loss. I just feel like maybe could have been funner if they were an actually good team like we were expecting, but since they weren't, like I'm not feeling bad. Like I would feel bad if it happened like it did with Nano's news. Like I feel bad for Nano's news. I don't feel anything for Dorado. Like Dorado deserves this. That's it.
The only person that I really feel for on the side of Dorado Gaming White, because I think a lot of the players we kind of discussed this previously, but like most of these players are kind of in the dawn of their careers, or at least they kind of feel that way, it seems, except for Porsche. So I still think Porsche has got the sauce as a top laner. He's the one I kind of feel bad for, because I actually think that this is the kind of result that could potentially come back to bite you in the ass at the start of 2025. But, you know, a player of his caliber, I expect him to remedy that pretty quickly. Hopefully.
But you mean the dusk of their careers, right?
Dusk.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Because Porsche is the only one not retired.
Yes.
Okay.
Technically speaking.
Like, I think Porsche has, you know, more in him. Because it definitely seems like he's always had that drive to compete. So I'm hoping that he can get back on the horse. Because I still think he has it personally.
That horse.
That horse in him.
Yeah.
He's got that Porsche in him.
My camera is killing me, by the way, dude. I've unplugged and plugged this thing in multiple times tonight.
Just like Kingman and killed the hopes of Contingent.
Gordo, can you talk?
Now you messed with your audio.
I messed with my audio?
Oh no, we can
you're
hear
fine.
you. Okay.
No,
For a second, we couldn't hear you.
Okay.
Let's move on to Zaun.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're gonna spend too much time to the Fallen Troopers. Sorry, Fallen
It's
Troopers.
not worth it. I agree. Let's just go.
We still have like playoff these.
Yeah. Let's get to Zaun. Zaun, Clown Gaming, and Skibbity Looks Maxers are the ones who don't make it. Ole Miss, Pulsing Gooners, St. Clair, and Ember Foxes do make the cut. Clown Gaming at 4-4, and Skibbity Looks Maxers at 3-5 missed their shot that they had coming into the week. It's a rough run for those guys, but they cannot pull off the win. Particularly Clown Gaming needing the upset over St. Clair, and they FF. I didn't even realize they FF.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Play.
That was really disappointing. And then I also think that another thing that kind of made the race to that 4th seed not as close as Ember Foxes beating Pulsing Gooners. Like, as soon as Ember Foxes beat Pulsing Gooners, I was like, okay, Ember Foxes got it. It's not like the last week. It's been fun, but like probably if they could beat Pulsing Gooners, they could probably beat Skibbity Looks Maxers, which they did.
The other thing is, so St. Clair Clown had rescheduled to Tuesday after Ember Foxes locked the playoff spot, and Clown Gaming was already after they found out that the game didn't matter. Clown Gaming had
right. I still don't like that. I will say I understand it. I don't like it. And I already said before, and I criticized the team that I said that I dislike the teams that FF. I was giving credit to Briarcliff for not FFing their games. They immediately went and FF'd the next game against Clown Gaming. So shame on them. Shame on Clown for FFing, even if a game didn't matter.
You do
I know,
lose
but
your
I
FF deposit, boys.
I will still shame them because I dislike them FFing. I'm fine with them losing the natural way, but I hate the FFs. And that's where I give a lot of credit to Skibbity, because Skibbity was technically out even before the matchup against Ember Foxes. I think by game they were already out because they were only reached 4-4, and Ember Foxes was like one game ahead of them in terms of game difference, so they would have never made it anyway.
Yeah, they needed to beat Clown the week before.
Exactly, and they still played it out, knowing that they were out. So I give full credit to them. They deserve the props. I think they were an interesting team. Their name wasn't good, but their players were, and I'm glad that they played.
What the fuck are you talking about?
I agree. The name was not good.
I hate their name.
I mean,
No.
shout out to Aquanick especially. I think he was the big star that a lot of people had a lot to praise about. Yeah, some faces that we've seen folks like Handy Taco and Admirable Potato around before as well, and yeah, it's good to see. I think this is some of the most success we've seen from those guys yet. As my camera's dead again, are you kidding me? But yeah, no, really.
Aquanick looked very impressive on the Ari. I mean, Skibby Looks Maxers, they just when they lost game 1, they just kind of they had fun with game 2. I don't know if you guys saw the crowd, but
I saw game 2.
We first picked Briar. So right off rip,
did the Briar did well at least?
No, we were like 2-11.
That champ, dude. That champion will never be good. I think that character.
It's just a solo queue champion, bro. Briar's a complete solo queue champion.
Yeah, I think Briar was the only you can fact check me on this, people that are watching. But I think Briar was the only champion that never saw any at all source of tier 1 competitive play across the whole world. I'm talking major regions, minor regions. Everybody else had at least one game. I'm talking fucking Teemo. I'm talking what other super off meta champions are there? Belveth,
somebody,
Diego,
Shaco,
Yi, Shaco. Yup, there was. Remember, River played Shaco in the LCS across the whole year of 2024. We still got a month left, but there are no tier 1 leagues running, so actually it's fucked. Briar was never picked. Never.
And she never will.
And she never will be. That champion is dog ass.
So so I think that's probably going to be the quickest champion to get a rework, by the way.
No, there's got to be too many.
No, they would not dare.
I think they will. Like that champion, I have it pretty sure that they are going to rework that, or that champion is going to die in the depths of hell.
It already has died. It already has died. I think they do not. I feel like the champion they need to rework ASAP is, if we're talking like new.
No, it's not that they need. It's not that they need to rework. It's that they will rework.
Maybe they need to rework Quinn before they do Briar. Get my girl Quinn some love. When was the last time that champion was relevant ever?
Yeah.
Nah.
Well,
Exactly.
anyway,
this conversation
goes. Clown Gaming. I mean, I think what it really came down to is that they got 2 by Ember Foxes.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, that was the prove-it match. So I think, like, you know, it was between those 2. I think they had a firm top 3 in this group, and yeah, that's what it came down to. You had your opportunity against Ember Foxes. We're not able to come out on top, and so I think it's a deserved move forward for the Foxes.
Yep. Me too.
Yep. Agree.
Yeah.
All right.
Very interested in seeing these players in the future, perhaps even in their main roles.
That also true.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's. Yeah. Oh, I thought we were talking about Clown Gaming.
I was.
Roles. Yeah. So that's the thing. Okay. Like, that's why I'm not like that. Like, sad. I don't want to tribute Clown Gaming that much. Like, they off rip were pseudo for funning ACL with their roles. Like we could hype up how cool Rough Beans could be because of his flexibility playing different roles. We can say you could say like Enthralled is an AD carry player, so you know how many AD carry players have we seen swap to support be successful? All that BS. But
a lot,
like,
actually.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. But like we're getting to 2025, and Enthralled's going to be on a qualifier team, a probably stacked qualifier team, possibly with Rough Beans, and I will bet as much money as I said that I would bet on peak performers making playoffs that they will be playing AD carry and mid again. So this is just like a wash in the pan fun thing for those.
Well, I feel like Enthralled might actually stick to support because that's where we saw him on the Cyto Combine.
He said that he's not like he's gonna go back to AD carry. Yeah,
Okay, I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Dimitri Alk Battery could fact check me, but that's what I think that was a discussion we had on one of those Cyto casts. So
got it. Okay.
And that's what he heard from Enthralled.
Got it.
All right. I think that's fair. I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, just couldn't quite make it. Was a competitive split, a competitive group. I think in another group, perhaps Noxus or sorry, not Noxus, Piltover, could have made it, but not here, not now. All right. Let's get into it. Let's start talking about playoffs. We got 8 matches this week. not going to try to spend too long on each and every one, especially some of the one-sided ones. But let's go through them. Let's just chat about the matches and see what our thoughts are. First one, top of the bracket, ISU versus Weber State, the collegiate showdown. That I don't think it's going to be one for the ages. I think it's one that's going to be over pretty quickly. But
Yeah.
any unique takes here? Any keys to the match for Weber?
I will say, I'll let TDS
music,
actually
invade music from level 1 and don't let him play the game.
Yeah, I will say
So-
I kind of want to let TDS cook here because he's the Weaver guy.
I have been the Weaver guy, surprisingly enough, and I will be a Weaver guy, not this series, but certainly
Yeah.
think it's going to be a 2-1.
Oh,
three,
so
one
think-
ta-
Yeah,
think
I
they're
do
gonna
think
take
that
game?
Weaver can take a game. Yeah, also because ISU has been a
especially
team
for
that
me.
has dropped game. Like
double him, Quax.
ISU,
Yeah.
for better or for worse, they have been a really strong team, but they have dropped quite a few games. I think they ended 16-3. I think it was just quickly
Yep.
checking 16-3. So they have dropped 3 games. Obviously, Glorp, Polestar, and probably Peak are the games that they dropped. So it's not like they dropped games against teams that were bad, certainly. But I do think that there's ways to try and get over these ISU blockage that they have. I think music will be a bit too much probably in the jungle matchup, but I think all around Weaver can try and fight back a game. I give them a game because I do think that ISU has much better team play and macro to just close out the remaining series.
I would realistically like to give Weaver a game, but I can't. Like I think ISU are better all around by a pretty sizable margin, I might add. And keep in mind, I do actually think that ISU are not the strongest team coming out of Demacia. Like, yes, they are seed number
I
1,
agree.
but like this to me just shows the caliber of how strong Demacia is. I think ISU should probably run their entire side of the bracket until they, I would imagine, probably hit like upper semifinals. Then they might have some difficulty. But yeah, I think ISU probably 2-0 this. I realistically though, from what I just want to see Weaver kind of play to their style, because like in lower bracket, I think they actually will have a decent chance. Like we talk about 4th seeds. I think this is definitely, I would say, behind peak performers, the best 4th seed that we have featured
Agree.
in all of them. So I think they can do some damage for sure.
Yeah,
Agree 100%.
For me, it's the classic subscriber, the thing I subscribe to, which is collegiate teams get a slight buff for me in a lot of spots because you're likely, I guess a lot of colleges can be remote, but you're usually, a little bit more familiar with your teammates, a little more synergy. So I would agree with that statement, but I'm trying to remember the last time I saw an ACL 4-1 win in the upper bracket. It's been a hot minute, and ISU.
I think it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna happen this time. Like if it's gonna happen, it's probably not gonna be this series. But again, I think Weaver have enough color in them to do something, and overall, I'm just looking forward to seeing how much damage it can do in lower bracket. I simply think ISU, like, and this isn't like a knock toward Weaver. I think ISU are too much to handle for a lot of basically all of the 4th seeds, if not all of the 3rd seeds of every division. Like this is just a really solid ass team, and so I don't know. It is what it is, right?
Yeah, actually, Slayer, you last saw it last split. Actually, University of South Florida 2-0 over
Oh
UCI
my God.
varsity
Oh, shit.
on the
No.
FF.
All right, hold on. Yeah, on the FF. All
On
right.
the FF,
Right, I
baby.
forgot about
Baited
that.
Baited me.
I
That
forgot about
does
that.
not count.
I know. I just remembered that it happened. I thought it might be the TFT Maryville, but that was actually a 3-2 match.
Yeah, 3-2 match. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I was like, did TFT like backdoor into that? No.
I thought it was even before that, actually, but yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, up next is going to be a closer matchup. It is the Pulsing Gooners up against Guangdong Flying Tigers. That'll be an interesting one for sure. I think it's probably going to be Goon favored.
Yep.
For most folks, just based on the names on the roster. But Pulse and Gooners have found some opportunities to struggle. They've dropped a couple of series over the course of their time in Zaun.
Well, asterisk around loss. They had XU in mid lane for the 2 series that
that was one. Yeah.
So
This is a hilarious matchup because I know for one, the Guangdong as a team are definitely memeing it, or somewhat memeing it. I think it was TDS and I forgot who we were talking to, TDS, but they were just joke flaming the enemy team and talking about how they don't actually practice. I think it was
Elias.
Or it was either Elias or Mitchell. One of the two of them came on there just like meme the entire interview like, we don't really practice, like we're just having fun with this. Which is, and then you've got the Pulsing Gooner side who like these players, it's like a similar vibe, but it's more because like they probably, some of them have higher priorities than playing on the Pulsing Gooners ACL roster right now. And that's why you're seeing XU like sub and mid, like all this stuff. Like Aaron's been nonchalant about the vibe, about the team getting going. I do think Pulsing Gooners will start to really lock in now. I think they take the series. But it's funny that the two teams that kind of memed some of their series and the way they've approached this season are facing off in the first round. The main takeaway I have and want to talk about, Sunlight is one of the most intriguing players for me in North America right now. He's got a weird pool, and he utilizes it to just gap people, and it's just really cool to watch. And he's going against arguably the closest variant I can think of that as a player for Tier 2, which would be Quacker, because Quacker, obviously it's a bit toned down when you get to NACL level, like you can't get real crazy usually, but Quacker's definitely the guy that, breaks out these aggro picks we know him for, tries to run lane, usually works out, doesn't always. I think top lane is going to be very fun to watch in this matchup because it's going to tell. This is like a gatekeeper test for me on Sunlight. If you can pull off your usual BS, I don't even call it bullshit because it's really smart and it's fun.
It is actually like calculated.
It is calculated too. It's like your unique style of champs pool and the play you bring towards the lane. If Sunlight can win against Quacker, like I'm all in on the Sunlight to like get on a good qualifiers team and try to make some noise because he is just so unique and I've enjoyed every single time I've watched him. And the one cast that we saw at TDS, like he played a Mundo that like actually just won them the game by themselves. And I know Mundo is cracked, but like
he's playing a lot of Mundo disgusting. Too. I think what's really interesting about Sunlight's pool too is that it's like I think of him as like a Garen guy from OQs. He's like playing a lot of the Garen there, but he's not playing it at all now in ACL. He's like shifted that pool with the meta, and now it's a lot more like Mundos and sets, and like there's a Yorick in there occasionally. He's playing a lot of Skarner top.
He's committed to that. He's like, Skarner's still a top laner.
They keep no matter how many times they nerf that Scorpion, he's going to keep playing at top lane. We'll see if the last round is what finally knocks
win. By
it
the
there.
way,
yes,
and win.
But I feel like he isn't the only like strange player on the team. Like I think that this team, what I will say, I think overall Piltover has like the least like overall competition, but I think that in particular like Guangdong and Gentle Hearts, like if we're talking about Piltover teams, they have got like aces up their sleeve. Like in the case of Guangdong, it's how unorthodox not just Sunlight is, but I would argue their whole top side. Like, I think Evanlai is also in the conversation of, like, this guy could sometimes play some insane shit. Like, he's the Ivern guy. He is the guy that will play, like, I literally looked at his solo queue record right now. This man is spamming Rengar. So this is also a player that I want to draw some attention to because I think Evanlai is super duper good and is also kind of like Sunlight in the sense that he plays some more unorthodox picks that we don't normally see. So I certainly think that this style of game could throw off Pulsing Gooners. And this is going to be my hot take, gentlemen. I think it's going to be enough to beat Pulsing Gooners. I think Pulsing Gooners are not prepared for some of the shit that Guangdong are going to throw at them. And I think in a best of 3, upsets like this are more likely to happen. So I think if Guangdong can carry some momentum, can carry some of that more strangeness into a BO3, they could take it. If it was a best of 5, I would say Pulsing Gooners win out, right? Because you have time to adapt and throw something out. But best of 3s are very do or die in the sense that, like, if you drop a game, you're in deep shit. And if you don't figure out how to immediately interject the strategies the other team are throwing at you, then you're going to be in the shit for real. And I think Guangdong have enough shit that they can throw at Pulsing Gooners to just straight up take the series. So I actually believe in Guangdong to take it probably 2-1.
Wow.
I like the logic. I think they take a game.
Okay.
My worry lies with bot side. I do just think
Yes.
I think
for sure.
I think you could just like see Aaron Rovex like wipe bot side and like win this series for them. But I'm with you, Quax. I think the chaos could easily get them a game, and I don't hate the upset call personally.
And that's also the thing with them, though. Like, both teams are so inconsistent because Pulsing Gunners is equally inconsistent, or maybe a little bit less inconsistent than GFT, but they are still quite inconsistent. And that can be a thing that obviously will impact a series like this. That is, like you're pointing out, BO3. So BO3 always has this sort of opportunities. That being said, I think it's a Goonstar 2-0. I think they will just 2-0 the side of GFT, because I think that GFT, even with their uniqueness and the fact that they have great things to try and pull off, I just think that they are way too haphazard to try and play a comfortable game against a team that quote unquote is better than you mechanically. And I think that that's a scary thing, because if you try to stat check, like if you try to hands check or hands div a team that is better than you quote unquote, that is going to almost always turn out bad. And then in the same vein, I think that for Goonstar, especially having, I think they are, if I'm not wrong, they are the team that has Thin Ankle Phil in the roster. He is a coach that, as far as I know, probably wants to try and take things a little bit more serious in playoffs. So if it comes to playoffs, I think they'll try and pan out a little stuff more in their favor.
I forgot about the Thin Uncle Phil playoffs. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
That is true. Is true.
That is actually a pretty big buff. Sorry, Quax, I'm actually going 2-0.
I'm still sticking with it. I mean,
stick to your guns, man.
Fair.
I have concerns about every lane too. Like I think it's
I think Sunlight is the only lane where it's like he might win against Quack.
He might,
and that's
one
game.
But like that's the thing. If he does, it'll be like, oh, that's cool for Sunlight, and you should bump him up on your radar and stuff. But it's like,
but then you look down
but
mid
it's
and
like,
jungle and bot.
like the odds. To play the betting odds here, like it's like the odds that Sunlight wins and like Elias wins, like you're gonna be losing 2 out of 3 lanes, I think, every game at least. And if Elias wins a lane, like the odds that Sunlight is also winning a lane, or that Ultio and Mitchell aren't bleeding out down there, I think it's just gonna be rough. I think, it's just gonna be a pedigree diff for me until they prove otherwise.
Nothing pisses me off more than not sticking to your guns with these calls. So that's all that.
You got it. Yeah, don't let us talk you out of it. But
just don't.
Look how it worked out for me. So it's
but
good.
you're doomed. Now. You've committed now. So just know
you've committed.
The ship has sailed.
Yep.
All right, let's now we can get the laugh track going again here.
All right, Ole Miss Blackrock, baby. A match for the ages. Colomer spent a lot. Colomer and Robbie Bob spent a lot of the draw show thinking that they were locked into play against one another. I'm not sure how that happened. But they are not. Instead, they're playing BlackRock Esports, who again
so they were shit-talking each other.
Are running Pure Genesis bot lane, who is a not general. No hate to Pure Genesis.
Say his name.
No hate to Pure Genesis. No hate to what is it? 7,000 Tiger Dicks or something. What is it?
Yep. There we go.
No hate to Pure Genesis, but I think this is probably his first ACL split, if I'm not mistaken. And
and first split as an AD carry.
And his first time playing as AD carry. And in the meantime, they have no jungler at all. So it's really I have no choice but to assume that nobody is the worst jungler in playoffs. That seems like a fair baseline assumption to be making. And all in all, I mean, Pure Genesis has been around. He's been like a sub on teams and stuff before, but never a spot laner. It's hard to have a lot of faith in this BlackRock Esports team, especially when so much of what they were going for was Krakadon and Inori.
I will say
especially when we don't even know the roster.
well, okay, this immediately when I heard about this news, the first thing I thought about was fuck me. It was either Worlds 21 or Worlds 22 where Beyond Gaming, their mid laner got caught like cheating, and so they had to sub someone in, and their match the next day was against a Gen G or Hanwha or whomever who had Chovy. So this basically is exactly what I thought of. I was like, imagine being subbed in and your first opponent in the bot lane is fucking Shogo. Like that is like that is kind of funny, I have to admit. But yeah, I'll be the first to say it, and I definitely won't be the last. This is an Ole Miss 3-0. Like
2-0.
Or 2-0, rather.
Yeah.
They're
Like,
gonna play a third game and win it.
This is not even going to be close. Like I love BlackRock as an organization, and again, they had a lot of things that made them special. They fucking lost everything that made them special. So what is there left? I don't know. I think the only thing left is a 2-0, sadly, and
7,000 Tiger Dicks.
And 7,000 Tiger Dicks, and
7,000
whoever
Tiger
draws
Dicks.
them in the lower bracket will be so fucking happy, baby. Like. Let me just tell you that.
Like that is a lower bracket dream. I think it's against Pulsar, by the way. Just looking at bracket playoffs. So Pulsar Mirage Alliance loser goes against BlackRock, if I'm not wrong.
Oh well, shit, then it's even more fucked.
That's hey, you know what? At least this is the chance gods this is the chance gods giving back to ACL teams, because I'll spoil it because we'll move on, but I think the most Titan v Titan first round matchup is Polestar Mirage Alliance, in my opinion. So now at least here's a lolly, like, oh, sorry you lost, buddy. Here's your participation award, is just getting the shit rock BlackRock, so you don't even have to like worry about a bad first matchup in the lower bracket.
Yeah.
And once again, I will just reaffirm what I said before in groups, by the way. I do not feel bad about Contingent because they had it all in their hands and they lost their chance. And now BlackRock gets to just shit the bed in playoffs, and everyone will just take the free win whenever they go against them. But this is solely on Contingent.
Yes. I agree with Slayer's assessment though. This is the big one. Like, in my opinion, if any game is to be like fucking game 3, every game is like a 40 to 45 minute banger, this is definitely the one. I think Mirage they were so close to being the best team in all of Noxus, and they got etched out just barely. And Polestar, it's Polestar. So I like, this is going to be a really fun series. I think, yeah, whoever loses here, of course, they're going to go against BlackRock, and there you go. But whoever loses here in the lower bracket, this is going to be like the BLG 1-2 bracket kind of scenario where you're like, please don't fucking draw one of these teams from like here on out, at least until we get like 2 to 3 weeks into the actual playoffs. Like, avoid whoever loses here at all costs is the name of the game. Because yeah, both of these teams should be in the upper quarters, in my opinion. Like, they both deserve to be in the upper quarters.
Yeah, Polestar ending 6-2 is what really, my goddamn microphone, man, or camera, whatever the
Your
fuck,
camera,
whatever it's fucking called, it's faulty, whatever it is. All right, you're there.
Okay.
All right, I'm back.
He's back.
For how long? Who fucking knows? Polestar.
When BlackRock makes playoffs.
What? Oh yeah.
You said for how long? Who fucking knows?
For how long?
Oh my god. Shout out to Colliver, by the way. I think he was replying to Quax's breakdown of the playoffs, where Colliver just said about BlackRock,
it was my quote tweet.
Yeah, it's that team hasn't been good since I forced them to be, which goes hard. That goes hard, Colliver. Props to you, brother. Yeah, Polestar slipping down to 6-2 in Demacia, and the fact that Mirage Alliance was 1 game away from being first out of Noxus.
Just 1 point, not even 1 game. Literally 1 game difference.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, the same match record, 1 more game loss over the course of the season, over the course of nearly 20 games. Motherfucker. Oh, okay, it's back.
Okay, I thought you were about to go thermonuclear.
This is like a new cam too, dude. I don't know what is up right now. Maybe it's because I'm using the USB port on my keyboard. Maybe that's just asking for trouble.
That's 100% what you're doing.
Yeah, well, that's just asking for trouble. But listen, man, if I don't do that and it starts fucking up, then I have to get up and go back behind my computer.
Dude,
stop.
Dude,
this
my
isn't
camera,
evidence. Fuck off.
My camera requires you use a 4.0 USB port. If yours is anywhere near a new camera, it 100% needs a better USB port besides the one in your keyboard. That's the problem.
All right, well, that's probably
that explains everything pretty much, actually.
Yeah, to me it does at least.
I don't know. All I'm saying is all the streams that we're on where my camera works fine, it's still plugged into this USB port.
well.
No, they're gonna see
this. This whole episode's crumbling. It's falling apart.
Like BlackRock.
All right.
Like BlackRock. All right.
So
So this match is hype because of the performances. Woo! All right.
You're just gonna have to push through it.
I am. All right. I'm gonna finish my goddamn point and then I'm gonna fix my camera. TDS, your lost cause. I'm sorry, but the fact that these teams have done as well as they've done in their respective groups, that Polestar has slipped and that Mirage Alliance has overperformed to such a degree. They're not a Mirage Alliance baguette anymore now, by the way. They're back to their official
just Mirage
name.
Alliance?
Are they really?
Yes, they're just Mirage Alliance.
Let's go!
They've dropped the beret.
I love that.
I miss the baguette. No.
Norm is taking this seriously now. They've dropped the berets are off. The team is legit now.
What if that was actually their strength? And they just lost everything because of that.
I mean, if so be it. But yeah, I think it's going to be an exciting match. We chose it for our featured match on Aegis. I think this one goes to 3. And it'll be really interesting to see if this Mirage Cruise kind of synergy and unique play style carries through up against some NACL level competition. At least Samick and Levitate, Chad. These guys are NACL level for sure.
Well, so who takes it? Like, what's our predictions from everyone here? Like, this is going to be a close series, but who manages to stick it through?
I'll go first if you can. I think
go ahead.
Polestar 2-1.
Polestar?
I'll take Polestar 2-1. Like, I like Mirage Alliance, but first they took away the baguette, so I will not support them anymore. Second, an actual analysis.
Valid reason.
I think their run has been great, but this matchup particularly, they are going to face so against Polestar, they are going against one of the better mid laners in the league, and not saying that they haven't gone against great mid laners either, but like this is probably one of, if not like two mid laners in the league potentially, and I think that has been one of the best strengths from Mirage Alliance, and I think this is the first time that they are going to be facing a mid laner that will not give you any side of an inch. Like, they already face strong mid laners, but I think Samikin is just the next step of that. And that is going to be a problem for me against Mirage Alliance, because a lot of their weak win conditions and a lot of their plays comes from Azure doing a really amazing job. And I think Samikin will limit that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I also would probably put Polestar 2-1 simply because I think that Mirage have kind of been accustomed to playing around Utter, and it's worked. Like, it's worked like a charm, but they haven't really had to go against mid laners. I'm gonna just go out and say it. I think the mid lane pool in Demacia is infinitely stronger than Noxus. Like, I think obviously
100%.
Aojun is tit for tat above the rest, but like
but the rest, when you go down,
well, yeah,
is the question.
But like Demacia has like Samikin, Robbie Bob, Meslo, Debonair, Fimini. Like these are crazy good mid laners, and I think Samikin is, if nothing, even if he doesn't beat Utter, as long as he negates Utter getting a lead in the early game, then I think Mirage Alliance's biggest commodity, their most prevalent strategy, is essentially voided. So they would have to find another way to win. And they do have those. Like, in particular, I think Baz and Decoy are very comfortable at winning lane. But again, you're going against Levitate, you're going against Hoarder. These are players that are either in the NACL or nigh NACL ready. So I simply don't think their main strategy is going to work. And I don't think their secondary or their tertiary strategy is enough to give them the series. I think it might help them take a game. So I will say Mirage take one game. But I do think Polestar are just better at the end of the day. Like, I do think that they have enough in them to just negate all of Mirage Alliance's biggest strengths.
So I'm completely torn. Completely torn. I'm like sitting here racking my brain. I was at the gym racking my brain about this matchup, and I'm still sitting here hours later racking my brain. My issues when it comes to picking Polestar is, and it goes back to Pulse Gooners, it goes back to like other teams we'll talk about that are like first seeds, NECL level players, because a lot of those teams have actually been pretty inconsistent, and I still think it's purely because like they aren't here to take it as seriously, right? Like they had combines to play in, like Samikin ran a Boston LAN, like there was a Boston LAN that was going on. Like some of these guys are in school. And they're not really here to focus as much on the ACL. And we saw in the regular season, we are going to see those teams like get into swing in the playoffs. What holds me up is I don't know when. Like,
yeah,
it could upper bracket. It might not be. And every year of ACL fall, there are teams that are really good that have to make a lower bracket run. I'm pretty sure Samikin's team last time had to do something like that. Had to do that last time because I think they lost the Kitten War in the upper bracket or something like that.
Yeah,
so
they did.
So.
Actually.
If that's the case, I want to give it to Mirage because Mirage is obviously they're locked in. Like they changed their name, they're locked in. They've been playing a ton together. It's still the AMI crew with Utter. Like their synergy has been there the entire time. That's the biggest thing to me is like their draft to game synergy and their ability to like work as a team, even in those tough mid to late game scenarios, is like that is what's made Mirage as good as they have been for me, alongside with the unique picks from Utter and Pocus, who I'll talk about in a bit here.
Yeah.
So if Polestar don't like level up like they're going to in the first round of playoffs, I think it's going to be Mirage Alliance 2-1. But like you guys are stating very obviously, like hands diff wise, talent wise, this should be a Polestar 2-1 or even a Polestar 2-0. I, for now, am going to lean just to be a contrarian that Mirage Alliance are going to get the upset here because I don't want to be chalk. This is honestly where it's going to. I don't want to be chalk. So I'll cross the whole bracket. So I'm going to pick the 2-1 for Mirage Alliance. I think they get the upset here and set up for a fun lower bracket. And I am obviously Utter is very fun to talk about. For me, this matchup is going to be so fun for support battle because we've talked endlessly about how support is this like weird void in North America. Like we're trying to find anybody who wants to step up and like develop into a great support player. We've talked endlessly about Cryogen, but the most impressive support one of the two most impressive supports that I've seen in the ACL so far has been Pocus. His champion pool is unique, and he is consistently winning these lanes with Baz very heavily, and it's allowing for their entire composition to work the way it is. So I'm excited to see Pocus versus Cryogen. I'll be the contrarian and take the 2-1. Polestar go to the lower bracket because one of these highly touted teams is going to go to the lower bracket. I don't care what we talk about here. Someone that we're not expecting to go to the lower bracket is going to go to the lower bracket, and one of us is probably going to be right about it, like the Pulse and Gooners take. So I'm going to try it with Polestar.
I definitely agree with you on like the cohesion point. That's partially why I took Guangdong when we talked about them, is because I think they operate as a team like very, very well. Like they operate as 5 people playing on the same team. Whereas I do think, unfortunately, when you kind of build these super rosters, the biggest kind of pitfall that they go into is like they feel like just 5 players playing their game. They don't feel like one team. Guangdong feels like one team. Mirage feels like one team. What's keeping me from voting Mirage, though, is at the end of the day the hands diff. Like I simply think
fair.
Like,
That's like totally fair.
It's fair.
You're just going against some of the most mechanically talented players that aren't currently in tier 1. So that unfortunately is where I stand. But Gordo, your cam's back. Where do you stand on this?
Yeah, that's how it's going to swing for me too. By the way, I stood up and tried to go and put this camera into a different USB input, and it told me I had to restart my PC and made a noise that got picked up on the recording. So that's everybody who thought that their PC gave them an alert. I'm sorry, that was me. trying to make this cam work.
I dealt it. It was me.
And I had to come
That's a
back
Twitch impression.
and plug back into the old USB port, which, by the way, appears to be working better than ever now. So
Who would have guessed, actually?
happens. I'm also going to take Polestar here 2-1. It's going to be so hard for me to ever predict against these, like, NACL talents after they've gotten their, like, split in NACL. You know, like, Samikin and Levitate have both undoubtedly leveled up over the course of this last split, playing against the tougher competition. And then they come back down to the depths against players that they were beating even when they were in Tier 3. It's just so hard to pick against them, right? And that's where I'm going to sit. I do think Utter has a bit of a shot. I think his performances in Saito were solid against players like Samikin, like Dark Wings, who are also participating. But I'm still going to be, by default, be favoring the more experienced squad, especially looking at the rest of the team kind of from top to bottom. As long as Hoarder doesn't int it, I think it's going to be a 2-1 for Polestar.
Yeah.
Good, I'm the contrarian.
All right.
I wanted to be for one of these matchups.
That's good.
Yeah. We all have to have a contrarian take at some point.
Do I have a contrarian take?
You ought to start cooking, my man.
I ought to. I'll think about it.
All right. So next up is probably, you know, this goes from, if you pick the other team, this goes from a contrarian take to like a psych ward take. So it's AoE versus Ember Foxes on the other side of the bracket. So this is the complete other side now that we're looking at. So AoE, Ember Foxes. So I'm going to start out and say I think AoE are the weakest Tier 1 team, like the weakest top of the group team that we have out of all four of them. So I don't necessarily think Ember Foxes are going to beat them, but I do think Ember Foxes are actually going to take a game. So I will say AoE 2-1. Like once AoE, I would say, gets to some of the harder opponents, I think we're gonna see that might be the case. So I don't think Ember Foxes are gonna do it, but I think we're going to see Ember Foxes take again. So I would say AoE 2-1 EMF.
So yeah, I'm gonna go 2-0 for AoE. I am not convinced enough with this Ember Foxes roster. It just like I haven't seen it gelled well enough for me. Like it really hasn't felt like it's gelled enough. And they did have to. I know the last game they played where they locked up their spot, they played without Reppy. They threw Forsen mid. By the way, it was Psycho Forsen, I guess. Forsen was playing mid, and I was bewildered by that, but he did. It just doesn't feel like this team is like synced up enough. But I will say, I've done this before talking about, I think, open qualifiers. Colthrow continues to impress me as a player, as a coach. Like he is drafting for this team, and he was going bananas, dude. I know he's playing against Skibbity Looks Maxers, but he played like a flawless Skarner game, like I think it was Deathless, a Deathless Skarner game from the jungle, created for all of his lanes. They blew it out, and then he's like, "All right, look, pick me Graves, 23 kills in like 27-minute game, just obliterated."
Yeah, Colthrow is absolutely crazy.
Colthrow is nasty, and the only way really quickly, Quax, the only way Ember Foxes win is if Colthrow is the one to carry them through right now for me.
Yeah,
and I just don't think
the matchup against City Witty isn't as bad as you'd expect.
Probably the best,
given that it's fourth versus first. Yeah, I think like that's the best matchup they come into it with.
Let's actually make the comparison, right? Like we have 4 tier 1, so you have only 4 players that you can go in the jungle. It's Music. I already think he loses there. It's Frost Forest, if I'm not wrong, on Pulsar. I'll quickly check.
No, Striker.
No, it's
it's
Chad.
So sorry.
Music, so the other first
Striker,
seed.
And these are the 4. CD, it's Chad, it's Music, and then Strike. I'm sorry if I'm
It's
blanking.
Icelandic.
See, I'm sorry if I was lacking on your team.
It's not Chad. It's Kryra. Kryra's on. CC.
Oh wait, it's Kryra. Yeah, like I was looking at the listed jungler initially, and it looked like and it says that it's Chad, but yeah, it's actually no Chad. It's Kryra. Sorry, yeah. So yeah, out of those 4, you win against 1.5. I would argue. Like 1.5 being, I think he can beat City. I think he's head to head with. Wait, who are the other 2? Icelandic, yeah.
Yeah, Icelandic is the one.
I
favor
think
Kryra and
Yeah, I think Kryra Music are above.
Kryra
And I
Music
think
are-
Icelandic
Yeah.
could be a 60-40 potentially. And then I think he can win against City. Like that, so jungle wise, probably the best matchup you could have hoped for.
I will say I think that sometimes Ember Fox's inconsistency can be something helpful because they actually do have pretty high ceilings. Like this could be a team that when mechanically on, they can really pull some shit. Like this is a mechanically gifted team. You've got players like Azog, Reppy, Colthrow, I would throw in there as well, obviously. Like these guys have hands. And when they are able to gel well, I think they're actually pretty damn good. The problem is they can't really hold that for very long. So like they literally can't catch it in a bottle. So they probably do. They probably could take a game. Again, I'm gonna hope that they take a game. Like they take a game if they activate that. But I don't think they're gonna hold it for a whole series, which is why I'm still saying that AoE, who are just I would say consistently better than them, and are their consistent level is usually better than them unless Ember Foxes hit that ceiling. And if Ember Foxes hit that ceiling, I think they win a game. But I think that AoE, simply with the experience, simply with the mechanics, you've got fucking Mobility Breezy on your team for Christ's sake. They're probably gonna take it. Like I think bot lane is the biggest gap here. I think Mobility and Breezy are gonna absolutely shit stomp Azog and Chookies. That's just where I stand. I think it's gonna be a big bot lane difference.
I will say though, quickly, I have been the biggest AoE hater. I will continue to be the biggest AoE hater, and I will.
So are you saying Ember Foxes win
after this series because I think it's an AoE 2-0.
Yeah.
There we go.
I'll just go quickly into that.
I agree.
Like, I just want to preface it so that people understand that this is like I don't think it's that close of a matchup. I do think AoE is not the strongest tier 1, but at the same time I think Ember Foxes is better than BlackRock, but like the problem is that the difference between them and BlackRock isn't necessarily that. Like it's not because BlackRock or Ember Foxes have been playing great and the difference is small. It's because BlackRock is complete and utter shit. Like that's the reality. And then from Ember Foxes to the other 4th seats, I think yes they can technically quote unquote be close to Weaver, but I do think Weaver. I have more comfort in saying Weaver can be a little bit better just because they will have more playtime together by virtue of them being a solo team. That's not something I can say from Ember Foxes, sadly. And at the same time, I still don't I'm not sure if their mid lane situation will be fixed or not. Like they are jumping, and I'm not sure if Reppy will play. I don't think it will make much of a difference, but I'm not sure if Reppy will be the one playing in that series either. So I just think that the difference in top and bot, like you were mentioning, the fact that AoE is a much more fleshed out team with much better experience, and also the fact that I think Ember Foxes also qualified by virtue of their opponents being a little bit inconsistent as they were, makes it like this series. Because one thing that I will credit AoE, even though I am a big AoE hater, is their consistency. Like with AoE, you 100% know what you'll get, and that will carry you through. And I think that's good to a certain degree. Will it work out against better teams or teams that are much more volatile? Probably not. But at the very least, against these teams that are a tier below them, or 2 or 3 tiers below them even, you know that they'll be able to outpace them in most situations. And I think that's why I say AoE 2-0.
Yeah. Gordo, you on the same train?
I am on the same train. I just think AoE outskill. I agree they're not the strongest tier 1 team. I do think we've let that disrespect go too far, though, and I will. The disrespect stops here. I will not be predicting Ember Foxes to take games. That's where the disrespect ends. I'm not saying that I'm going to have them winning the next round or anything, but I will not predict Ember Foxes to win games against AoE. This team went 16-1. They beat Gentle Hearts. They beat GFT. I think both of those teams are better than Ember Foxes. I'm not going to be predicting Ember Foxes to win.
Yeah. I will say, though, I will give credit to AoE when they win their next matchup, because that is actually where I can actually give them credit for. Ember Foxes, great job getting here. I don't think you're getting ahead of AoE, though.
Yeah.
For sure.
Okay.
All right.
I will say, the real series that will prove at least me and TDS's theory, that AoE might be slightly fraudulent, is the next one we're going to be covering, which is Straw Hat Crew and CCG Glorp. Now, here is my biggest take. This might be a hot take. I don't know. You guys can correct me. I think CCG Glorp take this whole side of the bracket. I think this team is legitimately stronger than their main team counterpart. So when CCG Glorp versus CCG maybe kind of could happen, I think CCG Glorp are going to be able to take it. This, to me, is the strongest team on this side of the bracket, and I don't think it's particularly close. So I'm just going to say this is probably the fastest series in all of upper round of 16. I think CCG Glorp easily 2-0 this.
I hate to agree with him. It pains me. Before I say this, I called the Straw Hat Crew. They got there. Glad the boys
they made
got
it,
there.
baby. They made it.
Shout out, and they made it. The
all
great
believe in
coaching
them.
staff. They, the boy Joe Danny. They made it. They got here. They earned it. This is good. I'm going to spin this. This is hilarious. This is a good thing because Straw Hat Crew is a team that works best when they're under pressure. So they're just going to get sent directly to the lower bracket with an unfortunate matchup. And then that's where they can cook and maybe make a run because this is a 2-0 for CCG Glorp.
Damn,
There's not really much analysis to put here.
I'm
sorry. I'm sorry, boys. Like this is just like if this Dragon Steel team shows up in any regard, you're just going to get slapped around.
This is a match that before the season started, I would have been hyped for and been like capping for Straw Hat Crew a little bit, But now the season's been played, and it's like if you told me like 3/5 of Dragon Steel against this Straw Hat Crew team, I'd be like, oh yeah, sign me up. That's gonna be a dope series. I want to feature that. I would not want to feature this series. I think it's gonna be over very fast.
Yeah, I will say,
not on my short list. Let's put it that way.
I think the one position people can maybe exploit on CCG Glorp when they're going against them is in the jungle. I do think Vakin is slightly below the rest of his team. He's still a very good jungler, and he's consistent at that. But, I mean, you're on a team with fucking Zamudo, Scary Jerry, and Zyko, and I would even throw in Phi Mini in there, because I actually think Phi Mini is really good. Like, I think Vakin is slightly worse than the rest of his team. So once they go against some harder teams, whether it be in upper quarterfinals or upper semifinals, because I would stake my entire life savings that they get up at least to there without dropping the series, then they might have some difficulty for teams that could potentially be more well-rounded overall. But yeah, I mean, there's just no way, in my opinion, that CCG Glorp drop here. Like, it just isn't going to happen. Like, I think Straw Hat Crew have a really good squad, but CCG Glorp are just that next level. I literally do think that they make it to upper semis, I dare say, without dropping a game.
I'm not going to
This
make those
whole
kind
thing
of
will
bold
be
predictions
hilarious
until the playoffs
if they
start.
actually lose here. Yeah, like this all sets up perfectly for a hilarious clip from Quax if it all burns. But it also sets up perfectly if you actually predict it. So hey, it's the nice, it's a double-edged sword of the predictions. Yeah, like it can work out, it can crash. It's fine. It's all in the fun of it.
I'm very confident in this team pulling through.
I think it's fair. I do agree. CCG Glorp is quite. It's a fake C2 in my eyes because. They could have perfectly fine. That is a perfect frame to
I'm killing it, dude. I'm killing it.
The frame is actually perfect there. So I will quickly say I think CCG Glorp is a fake seed 2 because I think they could have easily been seed 1 in their group.
Well, yeah. Well, they fucking changed their roster. They're only team above them they play before the roster change.
They lost.
I gotta step away for 1 second. You guys can keep yapping though. Feel free to move on to CCGPP as well. I'll leave the recording going.
Okay, perfect. So that's the thing. They are a fake seed 1, seed 2. I think they could have been a seed 1. I do think though that it's going to be a 2-1. I think Straw Hat Group gets the first game. For two things particularly. One is that I do think that CCG Glorp has had a way too easy time getting into this spot into the playoffs, where I think that now that we're actually in playoffs, they will get a reality check. Not that they are going to lose or anything like that, but I do think that they will get a wake-up call that in playoffs they are going to face much or a strong competition as well. And the other part that I think can be important in this matchup is that I do think that Straw Hat Crew will be able to attack the part that you're mentioning that is the weaker part. That is the jungle, and I would say, and to a certain degree, the mid lane. Not saying that Feynman is bad or anything like that, like you're mentioning. I think he's standout player, but I do think that Xiao Danny can match up to him to a certain degree, and I do think that Frost Forest can try and take advantage of the jungle. So I think that from those two players, they will get advantage in one game, and they'll be able to carry it out with their players, because I do think they have strong enough players that they can take at the very least one game. CCGG is much better though in general, and I think they are going to close it out.
Yeah, I don't hate the logic because it's the same thing I was subscribing to. Like these super teams, like they might not show up the first series of playoffs completely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it can happen. And also, if we move, I'm not sure if we're going to move now to CCG or not, but I
guess we can.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
If this works as a segue, I will say I think CCG Glorp doesn't win against CCG, because I'll keep on with the reasoning. If I think Frost Forest can beat Backin, I think Kryra will destroy Backin.
Kryra will absolutely eat Vacuum.
Yeah, like
for sure.
Kryra is a
But
much better jungler, and I think that that's going to be a strong point for difference, because I think it's the same logic with mid lane, but I think better players to contest in bot and in top.
The reason though I actually don't think Frost Forest has what it takes to beat Vakin is because we've seen Frost Forest be a quintessential piece for this team, but not because he's a carry, but because this man is facilitator he is shot caller.
He's a coach.
He's really good at that.
This is the coach of the team. It's not the carry of the team. So you're not expecting Frost Forest to go on, oh, let's fucking put me on Graves, put me on Kindred, put me on Lily. Exactly. And no, this man is going to go on things like Sedge. He's going to go. And I do think that, once Kryra and Vakin meet, if they meet, which I think is super duper likely, if this bracket goes the way we expect, I think, Kryra locks in even some of Kryra's like more weak side picks. Like I would count Zac as a weak side pick. Kryra Zac is unstoppable. And I think when you deal with Kryra, I don't think Vakin is going to be able to win out on that. The question is the rest of the team, right? Like Zamudo, Scary Jerry, Zyko. This is Dragonsteel we're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the same vein. It's a roster. It's technically CCG, but you have Array and Trevor, which are, I wouldn't say they're players to scoff at in the bot lane. So I think they can put a great fight against Scary Jerry and Psycho in the bot lane. Now that is jumping a little bit too far forward.
Yeah, I was gonna say we're jumping ahead. It's not even guaranteed that they get there, but I don't hate the logic.
Exactly.
Definitely, and I do think CCG, they draw the short end of the straw if we move forward. Like Peak Performers is the best 4th seed. This is the best shot we have at a 4 taking down a 1 by far. And I still do think the Peak Performers, they had to lock in earlier because they realized if they don't, they're going to miss playoffs. And I am very intrigued by this one. I think this one certainly goes 3. I think Peak Performers are able to take a game off. I went and looked, and I wanted to see because this could have been a rematch, and we could have actually pulled promotion tournament matchups to dissect how this one would play out, but they unfortunately did not run into each other because CCG just won 5 of their 6 games and kept their spot. So they actually never ran into the Lotus roster that is mostly this Peak Performers team. So we can't really pull from it, but there are some lanes that I am interested to see how they match up in. Obviously, Alorum versus Crimson is going to be very fun as they are the polar opposites of top lane players by
really a
wide margin. So that's going to be interesting to see how they play against each other. Kitzrow and Kryra in a different vein, I think, are very similar jungle players. So I'm intrigued to see how they operate. And past that, Array and Trevor, I think, have worked together super well for CCG. It has been very, very just a complete synergy bottom lane, the way that Trevor just always wants to go in and Array always knows the limits he can play with and pushes them, especially against some of these lower opponents. So the test is really going to be on Sage, Wabe, Dardoch. I do think Trevor and as much as I want to pick an upset here with Peak Performers being the fun 4 seed, I think Array and Trevor just smash this matchup. I think Fearless, I think it's going to be hard for Sage, Wabe, and Dardoch to really keep up with these two, but I'll give a CCG 2-1.
Yeah, I feel important, or sorry to call you off, Quax, but quickly, I think an important thing for CCG as well is coming from the point that Slayer made before, they already had their wake-up call, technically. They lost 2-1 against Mirage Alliance. They already kind of got their pride attacked, in a way, losing that matchup. And they are number one, they are not one seed because of what happened in regular season, them being able to get one more game in their favor. But realistically, they are the only first seed that has actually been tested to a really high degree and lost in that test. So I think that that was a good wake-up call, and they are going to come at the very least a bit more prepared, potentially compared to other teams that haven't really had their test yet, to put it like that.
Yeah. No, here's the thing. I really want to say this is going to go 3 games, but something tells me Peak Performers are not going to be able to live up to it, and I think Peak Performers are a really good team. This is the squad. This is the 4th seed that when they get to the lower bracket, which I think we're all agreeing they will go to the lower bracket, they will most likely not be the ones knocked out immediately. Like, this is definitely a roster I can see going. Like, this is a roster I can see going for a fairly decent lower bracket run, for sure. I don't think they're going to outright win it against CCG Esports, but I do think that we'll see enough positives from them across the series that we could say, okay, this roster actually could do some damage in the lower bracket run. So I will say CCG Esports go 2-0. I could easily see it going to 3 games though. I just think Peak Performers don't have it right at that level.
Yeah.
So
I agree completely.
Gordo, what do you think, my man?
You know,
are you Barack?
I mean, I am Barack. I've been Barack for a little bit, but don't want to interrupt the takes. I want Peak Performers to be able to come in and challenge this, and I can see routes for them to be able to do it. Most of them being through Robbie Bob. Aojun I think has had a big uptick this last split, but it's not guaranteed that he can, maintain that form up against a guy like Robbie, who's just been doing it for so long and has consistently been one of the best mid laners we have at this level. I think Crimson Alorum is like an unfortunate mismatch for Peak Performers, though, in their current state. Alorum's not really been playing the game much these days. Man's trying to retire. I think he's just here to play on out with the boys. But like Crimson is like really trying to be on the come up here. Like, I think he really wants to take that next step up, and I think he's taking things very seriously. I think that's I think they're coming in not just as different play style players, but I think on very different trajectories of their careers. And I'm gonna favor Crimson in that situation all the time, every time. So the matchups are very cool. I agree in jungle and bot. I think that's where it could get more swingy in either direction. I think I'm still going to predict CCG 2-1, but I think this is one of the closer places that I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
If Peak Performers came around and took a 2-1 here, it wouldn't absolutely shock me.
No,
no, for sure.
They are the most capable team at doing it, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. All right.
Let's
close it out.
I'll roll into this one because,
Go ahead.
unfortunately, immediately after I make this take, I have to dip out. So I'm going to throw out my whole take here with the next matchup and say, if you want to hear more of my thoughts, you got to come right back here to our Twitch channel, because this will be the Salt Mines featured matchup, which is the final matchup of the bracket. St. Clair Saints taking on Gentle Hearts. I think this is the closest matchup that we have outside of Mirage CCG.
Mirage Pulse.
Mirage Pulse.
Pulse.
Yeah, sorry. Mirage Pulse. St. Clair Saints and then Gentle Hearts in their new iteration. I think Inori B. I'm still a big fan of Inori B. I think, we're really just hammering these jokes. Once you shake the Black Rock off of you, apparently, Inori B can really thrive as a much better player here. I'm sticking to my guns, though, with St. Clair. I think particularly mid lane is going to be a very big win. I think Flocon kind of runs this matchup. Flocon's just going to be getting better and better in solo queue.
Now.
I do think he runs it. I think he runs this matchup. I think Flocon is much better. I think Miracle is really going to be able to match Nausicaa on top of that, and the synergy isn't there necessarily with Anori B and Nausicaa just yet. I'm assuming they haven't had a ton of time to scrim by now. I'll give Gentle Hearts a game because I really like their top side. I'm a real big fan of Cross. I think Cross has the jungle advantage over Maddie, but I think Flocon, and I expect bottom lane to win consistently to get them the series win, and you'll have to find it out on the Salt Mine. And with that, I bid all you friends adieu.
Take it easy, Slayer. Thanks for hopping on, man. It's
Easy,
been a
Slayer.
long one.
Thanks for
I'm going to pull a
giving us
Gordo
your-
right here. Watch this, guys. Ready?
Oh, there he goes. You know, TDS has been doing that too. He's gone.
It's awful, but it happens.
He's
Yeah.
fully gone.
Yeah.
He's not
Everyone.
listening to the bits.
All right.
So
So
yeah,
I guess
Go ahead.
I'll chime in here because I'm also going to be covering this series. I'm kind of on the opposite side of things. I personally think Gentle Heart. So this kind of comes to a question of like, obviously, I think the mid lane is the most volatile matchup, but like, based on how these teams like to play, I think it is very different. Like Gentle Hearts, to me, they pioneered a really, really strong topside focus squad. You've got Lawrence, you've got Cross, you've got Drew Dozer. This is a strong topside on paper, and they have translated that on paper status to in-game. Like they are always there for the grubs. They're always fighting around the top side, and I think that's one of the reasons why they're so good. Their ace in the hole, though, like their little ace up their sleeve, the trick that they pulled on everybody was Mikel, right? Like Mikel and Nausicaa were able to like win lane, right? They would get ganked by junglers over and over and over and over again, and they would still manage to either turn it around or they would at the very least break even. Like they got so much focus on them by other teams, and yet they still managed to hold fast. So I think that was their biggest strength, was their bot lane. It wasn't the most apparent one, but to me, having a really effective weak side bot lane when your team is super focused on the top side is the most valuable thing. It's one of the reasons why like 2020 Damwon was so good. A lot of people want to pay tribute to Showmaker and Canyon and Nuggery, but Ghost and Barrel were a vital part of that puzzle, and that's why they ended up winning the whole thing. Now, though, you've got Anori, who, to me, demands a lot more attention. Like, this is a strong side bot laner. So my biggest concern is that this move will throw off the dynamic that made Gentle Heart so successful. And I think with that in mind, I would also be inclined to go St. Clair, simply because I think St. Clair, like you kind of have highlighted, TDS, have more synergy being a C-Lul team. And they also haven't had any roster swaps, right? So I'm going to be rooting for Gentle Hearts, but I think with the most recent swap and the fact that it could easily throw off the dynamic that this team has found throughout the whole season that has made them so successful, I think with that in mind, I probably go St. Clair 2-1, even though I do want Gentle Hearts to win. Because I like Gentle Hearts. This is their last run as an orc.
This is a seeding upset, but I guess I'm going with consensus here. I think it's going to be St. Clair 2-0. Yeah, I haven't gotten as much exposure to Gentle Hearts this split. I've seen VODs and stuff, but I haven't like done an in-depth prep session to have them on stream or anything. But I don't think these last-second roster changes are going to give them, I think, a lot of kind of new avenues to play through. And I've just been really impressed with how well-drilled St. Clair have looked when I've gotten to see them. I think they have been able to very reliably execute on what their game plans end up being. I think they found kind of a semi-permanent starting roster here with Miracle and Sama, right? Boschetti and Ricky haven't really been making a lot of showings since the earlier weeks of the split. I agree that Flocon clears. I've been very, very impressed with Flocon, especially like on St. Clair. I think he's been playing some of his best League that we've gotten to see from him. I have a lot of faith in Maddie. My Maddie stocks kind of keep going up here when he's playing with the St. Clair squad rather than jumping between random OQ teams every split. I think he looks a lot better here than he did like playing on one random Team Ambition roster and whatever other teams he would pop into. Yeah, I've just been very impressed with this squad so far. I really am excited for this next CLOL season from them, and I do think that they'll be able to beat out this GHG squad. Still love Lawrence, still love Cross, still love Anori B, but I just don't think they're going to be able to keep up with the synergy and the consistency that I've seen out of the St. Clair team.
Yeah, I'll say with Sinclair as well. I think it's going to be probably a 2-1. I feel like obviously GHG they have a really nice roster and they've been playing really nice when they do have their full roster. I do think though that St. Clair feels like a much more cohesive unit, like you were mentioning. I think Sama's addition has been great as well. Like I think he doesn't get mentioned as much because of obviously Flowcones. I think Flowcone having potentially being the best member so far. But in general, I do think that the roster feels really cohesive in how they want to play. And in general, like the players know what they want to do and they work to achieve that in the best way they can. They probably would have been closer to second seed in another group when there were no Goon or Ole Miss. But still, I think that they are a really strong team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they give a couple more surprises. Like not only this one, not saying that that they are going to be at any CCGR peak, but they are going to give a fight to any team they face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say I do think that like to me the power of the Last Dance is real. Like we've seen it time and time again. I think from several teams, and I don't know, man. I think this could easily swing the pendulum in Gentle Hearts' favor. Like this to me. Like obviously this is the squad's last run. This is a historic org that has been around for the past, few years. And I think they have a roster that could legitimately do some damage. And yes, they are higher seed, but this kind of goes back to what I was saying, where it's like not all divisions are created equally. Like I think Zaun are legitimately next to Demacia, they are the best group overall, sending like 4 of the strongest teams. And I think Piltover are just a little bit weaker, and they are usually relying on tricks that their team is known for playing, like aces up their sleeve.
Yeah.
But Gentle Hearts lost their ace in Mikel. So I feel like if they don't have that, then the effectiveness is not necessarily going to be as prevalent against a team like St. Clair, who, as we've highlighted so many times, have gelled so nicely. And to your point about the top lane as well, I really find it enlightening how they transitioned Sama in here. Like Ricky was like the top laner for St. Clair. This was the St. Clair man for so long,
100%.
and to see to see how they passed the torch, I think to Sama has been heartwarming. I dare say wholesome in a way. Like I'm really looking forward to seeing Sama in CLOL, hopefully for years to come, because I think he is a really good top laner. Like regardless of result here, like credit to the program overall. Like you made a one of your most famous players who is done with the program, and you gave him a replacement that I think everyone is excited to see and is proud to pass the torch on to. So I'm excited to see the future of this squad as well. Like you guys were highlighting, the next season of CLOL, gonna be a fucking banger, right? Like ACL is gonna be fun, but CLOL is gonna be fucking crazy. So I'm excited for that because of teams like St. Clair, because of teams like ISU, because of teams like Weaver. We'll throw them in there as well. Like 2025, we've had a lot of bad news about it lately, but like teams like this give me hope and give me excitement to go into the next year. So I'm looking forward to it regardless of result.
Absolutely, but it will be a St. Clair
100%
win.
of that.
I'm looking here, man. I want to make a bold call. The closest thing I could get was calling for St. Clair here, which is a seeding upset, but everybody seems to agree with.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not gonna make up some stupid shit I don't believe. So no crazy upsets from me this week, but stay tuned. I'll come up with some.
I don't think so either.
I'll come up with some.
I'm fine.
We got
I'm
multiple
fine with
weeks.
the straight up matchups. Exactly.
Yeah. Overall, I think a good bracket draw, though. I think these matchups are solid.
Yeah, these matchups are cool.
I think this will give us a very cool upper quarterfinals for sure. I think some of those matchups are going to be crazy. We'll see. I think we're more likely to cover an elimination match. It's just more fun to cover elimination series, at least on Aegis. But we'll see. Stay tuned on Monday. The Monday series is probably going to be dope.
Yep, we're going to be live Fridays, Mondays for the next however long. We're going to be live for the next month, right? Grand
Pretty
finals.
Much the next month. No
finals.
Thursday for Thanksgiving, obviously, but we'll be back.
Yep. Grand finals is going to be on the 20th. So a month of League of Legends action, ladies and gentlemen, here from Aegis, except of course for Thanksgiving, like Gordo just mentioned. So yeah, it's gonna be exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I think this is gonna be a super duper fun month of League, and hopefully there's going to be a lot of fun involved from it, not just with us, but for everyone watching and everyone who's gotten invested over arguably the most stacked ACL split of its entire inception.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Been a great split. Still plenty to be determined about who's going to end up walking away with that championship. But definitely want to catch the start of the playoffs here. Reminder, it is going to be Polestar versus Mirage on Aegis. And it is going to be St. Clair versus Gentle Hearts on the Salt Mine. So definitely going to want to check those matches out, get the multi-Twitch going, and we will see you guys there, as well as next week on the Salt Mine. So that'll be tonight at the time this drops, because that'll be Friday night.
Yeah.
So stay tuned tonight.
Tune in right now.
Tune in on Monday as well. Those matches are going to be great as well, and then we'll be back with another podcast after that, and hopefully drop it a little bit after Thanksgiving. So look forward to that, everybody. I'll get one edited on the holiday. But until then,
While eating a little bit.
Absolutely. Until then, stay tuned to the ACL, stay tuned everywhere else, and we will see you guys next time.